I was just going to say,
Triple
I
if you want to
really-
sponsor us, please sponsor us.
Yes. North Beam and Triple Will, we are open to sponsorship. I was just going to say, I really value the being able to see the customer journey across different channels. I love that. They started in this DSA, dynamic search ad, non-brand campaign in Google Ads. Looks like there's one touch point that's usually starts there that ends in a conversion. And then usually the second path most often is they see this Facebook ad campaign, and then email tends to convert them. And like just being able to see that, and you want a lot of data points for these things, right? You're just saying 3, and that's a common path. Well, that doesn't really tell you that much, right? And if it's a 90-day or 90-day window or something, right? It doesn't really tell you. But when you've got a lot of data, that is fantastic to see common conversion paths, and just to be able to see, when we make major marketing changes in the business, if we start pushing more aggressively on email, how does that affect SEO? What are we seeing? Is that, seeing the ebbs and flows as we move things around, as we move efforts or spend around, how can we see what's happening, how that's affecting other channels? Great way to get those kind of insights.
So in this case, you're looking at the conversion path, which is like the attribution path. And you did mention that, if you had 3 of them doing this, it is not significant. How many conversions or sales that are triggered through the website would you say, okay, once you're getting like 300, 500, 1,000 sales a month, and then it's probably like, that's a good indication to start looking at this, because then it'll start to show patterns that are of statistical significance?
I'm going to give you like a basic stat 101 terrible answer, in the sense that it is sort of a bare minimum, which is the magic number. I'm putting that in air quotes for all the listeners. It is not a magic. It's not really magic, but it's 30, right? Bare minimum. Oh, really? 30.
I thought it was 100.
Bare minimum, Michael. Bare minimum here, 30. Okay. Yeah. So this is even going back to the survey days, people on the streets. Not that they don't do surveys anymore, but sort of stats 101. We want to see at least 30 data points for something before we. And again, this is not going to be a high confidence with 30, but we know there's a lot of advertisers that are not even going to get 30 conversions in a month. Sometimes not even in a quarter, because it's
not at MarketLead, mate. We get hundreds.
Okay.
Not at Ads by Cory. He gets thousands.
But that's the it's the bad answer. It's the best. It's the best. It's the best. How do I say this? Worst answer? I know it's not really an easy question to answer, because there's actually more thorough statistics that have to be done to really assess that. You're really looking for incrementality more than you're looking for necessarily just a minimum sample size. But yeah, you don't want to be the real thing here is you don't want to be making decisions with really small sample sizes. Yeah. But that's a whole topic. Stats topic is going to bore everybody to death. But yeah. 30, preferably hundreds, preferably 300, 3,000, whatever. There's no reason there's 3. It's just an example.
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I think it's just important just to even just say this stuff, because we think about this stuff all day and every day. People watching this do not. Right. So our answer is like, what our 20% answer is probably better than most people's 90%. Not because we're smarter, it's just because we spend so much time thinking about it. So I usually use 100 as a base minimum of setting as a baseline for anything of statistical significance, of clicks, conversions, any other data points that are related. Not impressions. Impressions I usually would look at a few thousand, just because, impressions you can just get anyway. And if you do it wrong, you can just be getting impressions and then they're just going to mess up everything.
Yeah, click-through rate out of 30 impressions is probably not that statistically sound.
Yeah, and 15% CTA. Yeah, and then it goes down to 0.5 over the next week. You're damn it, what happened? I thought I was onto something. Yeah. So
go ahead.
No, you go, mate. You go.
I was just gonna say this is it's a question that I was really trying so hard to figure this out. I can't remember how long, maybe 8 years ago or something, where I was just like, man, how do I know when I have enough data, right? This is way before I started getting deeper down the path of data science and statistics. And I literally had to go to a bookstore because I couldn't find anything online that I could really feel good about. And I just looked at this like Stats 101 textbook and I went through it, and it mentioned the whole 30 minimum thing. And just think about it, guys. It's not a magic number you're looking for. There's no perfect number. The less data points you have, the less confident you can feel that that's what you're looking at is a true insight that is likely to continue. The more you have, to Michael's point, 100, 1,000, the more confident you can feel. And in our case, as PPC account managers, making the optimization and feeling like that was a good decision. The less you have. So here's the thing. There's speed of business, right? There's this concept of speed of business. We can't wait forever before saying, okay, now it's statistically significant. Now we can let it ride. That might take 6 months, and we can't let the business fail in the meantime. So you're not always going to have 30 enough to make a real great confident decision. Sometimes you're going to have to act sooner than that, but that is sort of the minimum ideal number.
Yeah, but 30 is not a lot anyway. And also remember, this isn't just like quantitative of 30 or 100 or 1,000. It's the qualitative. You want to make sure that those 30 sales are like quality sales, not just like a $2 sale. Like if it's something for like $500 or 150 average order value, like you also want to make sure you're just not hitting thresholds just to meet thresholds, because the quality of the data going in is going to be the quality of the outputs you get out. So if you're just trying to hit a numerical number, you could be like, once again, about the impression joke I said before. It's like if you go to hit a number, but the data is extremely poor, you're building a model or a statistical model for yourself that's based on flawed data, which you don't want. You don't want to be modeling and predicting your business and the attributions and your investment decisions in advertising and other things based on poor quality data. So have the patience, but also the awareness of the quality side or the qualitative side, because if you don't, that will ruin everything, because the quality of the data at the start will dictate the data that comes through, the insights you have, the attribution, the business decisions you make, what all this stuff. And you could be going on this like wild down a rabbit hole that was just never supposed to happen if you just kind of like shifted the data quality a little bit just at the start.
And I was going to say that also reminds me another point, which is really important, folks, that it's not always going to be we're waiting for 30 data points, and this just as an easy example before we do something. In marketing, we are always playing this balancing act where timing in marketing is very important, right? I don't think that gets talked about enough, timing. So if we're waiting for this magic number, let's say 30, before we make a change, before we react to something that's happening, we could miss the boat, as we like to say in the States, could miss this opportunity to jump on a positive outlier. For example, let's say you've got 10 conversions in this ad group or this campaign. Again, I'm trying to keep it really simple for you guys. There's more nuance than this, but let's say you get those 10 conversions. Conversion rates have skyrocketed because some external event, some act of God or whatever you want to call it, has really driven demand for particular products that are being targeted in that campaign. You don't want to be sitting around waiting for 30 conversion points while all of your competitors might be taking advantage through either smart bidding or otherwise on that conversion rate jump. Now, smart bidding has that promise that it's going to be able to jump on those things, but it's not immediate, right? It's not going to be like recognizing that immediately. You need to also do your job as an account manager to recognize those huge spikes and take advantage. And sometimes you just can't wait forever to take advantage. You might miss that huge opportunity. So that also brings up the timing point around sample size.
Yeah. And that also loops back to just having what we're talking about at the start, about like the tools and softwares and stuff, is having good tools that you've built to identify opportunities when they're happening.
Yes.
And this is the thing. You just can't just like go like, oh, what tools are out there? It's like you've got to build it, because it's not about the ad platform. It's actually about the client, the industry, and the ad platform. So like the ad platform is probably like 1/3 of it. There's the client's business and their data and their trends. There's the industry that they're in, so them and their versus their competitors. And then there's the Google or the Facebook with the advertising aspect as well. And then this is good to loop back to like what we're originally chatting about, like operations and tools and all these things. Is you've got to know your clients. You've got to know their industries. You've got to know the data. You've got to know the trends. Like this stuff isn't just like, oh, what's the next hack I can do in Google Ads? That Google Ads probably has nothing to do with it. Mm-hmm. It more has to do with industry and market trends in the business and their data and their decision-making and what they're implementing in their business more than the advertising. I always say that the advertising is supposed to reflect the client's business and their industry, not the Google Ads is just there just as its silo thing, just to kind of like pump into the business. It's got to be a feedback loop for the business.
Yep.
And like following what the business's goals and objectives is, not just like, oh, cool, we noticed these trends in Google Ads. So what?
Right.
So
exactly.
What? Who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. If you're speaking conversions and the client is speaking profits, you're not talking about the same thing. As much as it seems like you are, you need to be on the same page. You need to be talking about the same things that are important to your client.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes your client's focusing on the wrong things, and it's your job to redirect them diplomatically, professionally, to the right things in order for them to achieve the real goals that they have, which again is to put money in their pocket, to grow the business, to pay their staff, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, sometimes you need to redirect those things, but yeah, overall, make sure you're focusing on the right things. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's even what we're talking about at the start is, what do you focus on? Like, what are your operation? I said the things we do is like, we focus on communication, because the quality of your communication and how you communicate will change what the client focuses on and unconsciously focuses on consistently. If they're constantly focused on this one thing, like, we've got to hit this and this, you're like, dude, like, I won't say dude to them, but I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's not important. This is the number. And that's what I say to most clients now. I'm like, look, we can report on that, but that's not what's important. What we've noticed with our clients, all these businesses we're working with, and our experience is, these are the numbers you need to work towards. So let's just focus on this for now and see what the outcomes are. And then magically we hit those goals, and then their goals are met as well. Got to always remember that when you work with clients, either as an agency or as an individual, you've got to ask them for what they want, but then also deliver what they need. And if you're an expert, you should know intuitively what they need. You don't come in going, oh yeah, I know what they need. You've got to listen to them and listen to what they think they want. And then also go, based on my experience in this industry or in this ad channels and all these areas, because their sample size of what they want is N equals 1 or number equals 1, because it's just based on their experience for their business. Because if you're a good specialist and you've been doing it for years, you should have worked with dozens, hundreds, thousands of businesses. And you should see patterns unconsciously that you're like, yeah, he might want to focus on that. But based on my experience, even just like my intuition, it should be this, 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 and this, because I've seen 12 other businesses who are similar in nature do these things and get better results. So your own sample size from direct experience is much higher. So then you've got to so then when you've got clients saying, oh, let's focus on this, you can be like, we can, but these are probably more important numbers based on my experience, these types of businesses that are relevant to you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. But that requires communication. You can't just go, yeah, I can focus on that number because the client wants to focus on it. You've got to really bring your expertise in as well. And that's when you start reducing time on the account, because you're working on the stuff that gets results, not the stuff that they want you to work on that doesn't get results. So this is the economics of time, of like, once again, at the start, when you're like handing things over to the team, because we're so aligned on what we look for and identifying where gaps are at, the time on accounts is down by like 50 to 80%, because the data analysis, we do more time on data analysis, so then we're spending less time in the ad account.